die. There are two types of strokes, ischemic and hemorrhagic. Each one is characterized by the way it affects the blood vessels in the brain. Ischemic strokes are caused when blood vessels become obstructed, choking off the brain's oxygen supply. Ischemic strokes account for more than 80% of all strokes. There are two kinds of ischemic strokes, both of which are triggered by blood clots or other blockages inside an artery. The first is called a cerebral thrombosis. A cerebral thrombosis occurs when a blood clot known as a thrombus develops in a cerebral artery located in the brain. These clots usually happen in blood vessels that have been damaged by atherosclerosis, a condition in which plaque and fatty deposits build up on artery walls. A blockage in a cerebral artery can cut off the brain's blood supply and cause a stroke. A cerebral thrombosis is the most common type of stroke. It typically occurs in older people with a history of high cholesterol. The second kind of ischemic stroke is called an embolic stroke. Embolic strokes are caused by an embolus, or a blood clot that develops in one part of the body, but then breaks off, travels through the bloodstream, and becomes lodged in a smaller artery in the brain. Embolic strokes typically affect people with heart disease or those who have had heart surgery. The second type of stroke is known as a hemorrhagic stroke. Unlike ischemic strokes that block blood flow to the brain, hemorrhagic strokes are caused when a blood vessel ruptures and spills blood into the brain. There are two kinds of hemorrhagic strokes. The first is called a subarachnoid hemorrhage. A subarachnoid hemorrhage occurs due to the rupture of an aneurysm, which is an abnormal bulge on a blood vessel wall, typically at the base of the brain. As blood flows through the affected area, it fills the aneurysm, and just like a water balloon, the more fluid that's added, the bigger it gets, stretching the walls until they finally burst. When an aneurysm ruptures, blood pours into the space between the skull and the delicate membrane surrounding the brain. This causes dangerous fluid buildup that presses on the brain and destroys brain cells. An intracerebral hemorrhage is the second kind of hemorrhagic stroke. Intracerebral hemorrhages occur when a blood vessel, sometimes as thin as a human hair, ruptures deep inside the brain. When this happens, blood spills into the brain and clots. This blood clot may be as small as a thumbnail or as large as an orange, and it creates dangerous pressure on the brain. Intracerebral hemorrhages are often the result of high blood pressure. All strokes have a similar effect on the brain. They deprive it of oxygen. When this happens, brain cells become damaged or die, and parts of the body can no longer function properly. Depending on the area of the brain affected, strokes can impact the body in many ways. They may impair movement and sensation, or cause difficulty in thinking and reasoning. The most serious strokes are those that occur in the brainstem. Because this part of the brain controls involuntary life support functions like breathing and heartbeat, these can be fatal. When strokes damage the left side of the brain, they can cause a condition called aphasia, which is difficulty speaking and understanding language. Strokes that damage the right side of the brain may leave a patient with paralysis on the left side of the body. And all strokes can cause varying degrees of memory problems. While strokes can be serious, even deadly events, it's important to remember that they can be treated with immediate medical attention. They can also be prevented by identifying and controlling the risk factors that cause strokes in the first place.